Everyone has creations that want to move through them. We don't just have ideas, we're here to be channels for those ideas. Sometimes our ideas want to come through us as a book. But once we have that idea, we're stuck. How do you actually start to write the book if that is the thing that's calling to you? I'm Asia Suler of One Willow Apothecaries, and this video is about how to finally start writing your book. So this video is coming out of my own experiences of writing my first book. So in case you haven't heard, my book, Mirrors in the Earth, Reflections on Self-Healing from the Living World, is about to be published in just a few short months, and I am so excited to share it with you. The book is a collection of nature essays, with each chapter focusing on a specific ecological process, talking about plants, stones, and whole ecologies, and looking how that process itself reflects back to us the naturalness of our own journeys. The book came out of a decade of working as an herbalist, earth intuitive, and ecological philosopher, and it carries a very important message directly from the earth for you. Specifically, the living world wants to communicate through this book that self-compassion isn't selfish or isn't tangential to your journey of learning how to be an earth healer. It's actually essential. The core message of the book is that self-compassion itself is a force of ecological healing. So when I first found out that my book was going to be published, I polled all of you. I polled this audience to ask, what are your questions that you have about the process of writing a book? And this video is directly being guided from those questions to help you start to write the book that is inside of you and ready to come out. Because I believe in your book. The earth believes in your book. Your book is meant to be a reality. And my intention with this video is to be able to demystify the process a bit so that you can really see, understand, and trust that you can do this. So the first question I got over and over again is, how does one begin? How do you get started? And believe me, I know how pressing this question can feel. Writing a book is a huge endeavor. Some days when I was writing, it felt like wrestling a many-armed octopus. It's a big project, and especially if you've never undertaken it before, it can be hard to know, where do you start? How do you even enter into this? How do you hold the whole thing in your mind? To me, where it starts is you get a nudge from spirit, or a nudge from your intuition, your muse, or your guides. There's this feeling sense, this energy, this pressing inside of your heart that you are here to write a book, that there's a book that wants to move through you. I describe it in my book like a cat laying on my chest, like waking up to this cat purring on my chest. Soft, warm, but insistent day after day after day. So to just start with that feeling sense and that inner knowing of, I'm being asked to do this because this is an idea that just hasn't gone away. So if you're someone that has a lot of different ideas and you're wondering which idea do I start with, here's a question to help you get really clear. If you were going to die tomorrow, what is the one book that you would want to leave as a legacy in this world? What is the one book that you know, if you just got that book written or that contribution out into the world, that you could die feeling happy? You could die feeling like you completed some essential part of your mission here on Earth. Now, the reality is you'll probably have plenty of time to write many books, and if you want to translate all those ideas, you can. But start with that one idea that feels so essential to your mission and that feels essential to where you're at in your healing journey right now. You want to choose an idea that feels fresh to you, that feels inspiring, an idea that you could drop into a relationship with this concept day after day and still have it be something that feeds you. Now, there are two ways to start your book from here on out. There's the short way and the long way. The short way is to come up with an idea or a concept, spend time researching, cultivating, gathering resources, make a bare bones outline, and then slowly have that outline get more detailed, adding in references and page numbers to the books you want to reference. Really get that outline as detailed as possible before you start the writing process, and the writing process will fly much easier than the long way. The long way is just to start writing, and through the process of writing, then figure out what the book is actually about. So with my book, Mirrors in the Earth, I wrote it the long way. From start to finish, from the first time I felt this book inside of me to this book entering the world this year, it was about a 10-year journey. So that is what I call the long way. But the truth is, I needed to go on that journey because I was figuring out who I was, what my journey was, what I was hearing from the earth, and what I was here to express. Now, I have many ideas for other books in the future, and I hope some of those books I will be able to go about it the quote-unquote short way. But I know for this book, the long way was the way I had to do it. It was how I would actually listen and tune into what was being asked of me. And eventually, this was how I discovered the core theme of this book as self-compassion being a message from the living world, that this Earth wants us to learn and go on this journey of self-acceptance, self-recognition, self-compassion, because that's how we understand the gifts that we're here to give. And remember that your book has its own soul and its own energy, and you're here to work in alignment with that energy. So when you get stuck and you feel like it's all up to you, to remember that you can surrender some of the process. You can ask for help. I had an altar the whole time I worked on this book, many different iterations you can imagine over 10 years, where I was asking the book to come in and I was asking it for advice, and I would go to the book and ask the energy that I felt to be the book, the soul behind the book, what I should do or what direction I should go in. Learning how to surrender to this energy that you're in co-creation with will help lessen some of those feelings of pressure or expectations, or I have to know and control every one of the details, and know that you're working together to make this creation a reality. So the second question I got most frequently is, how do you get your book published? What is the actual process of getting your book out in the world? Well, first of all, to anyone who's at this stage, I want to say congratulations. It's a really big deal to be ready to put this creation out into the world, and it deserves honor and respect and the kind of thoughtfulness that I know you're bringing to this process. So I'll share a little bit about my journey with publishing to really help you decide on the two options that are available to you with publishing, which is self-publishing versus traditional publishing. Neither form of publishing is better than the other. I truly believe this. I went with the traditional publishing route for Mirrors in the Earth, but I fully intend on releasing other books and other projects in the future that I will be self-publishing. And it's because each has their own strength. So here's a series of questions that you can ask yourself to help you decide whether self-publishing or traditional publishing might be the right route for you. Question number 1 is, are you willing to take the time to teach yourself a lot of new things like marketing, design, sales? Are you willing to wear a lot of different hats? For those who self-publish, you are going to have to learn these things. You're going to have to be all the parts of the process for yourself. Now, if that feels exciting to you and liberating to you, then self-publishing might be the perfect avenue. The second question is, are you hoping that this book is going to be a significant portion of your income or your business's income? If so, then self-publishing might be the best route for you. In traditional publishing, sometimes you're making only cents per book. So it's harder to make a good amount of money from a book. And I know a lot of career authors in my life who have to have other forms and modes of making money because it's just honestly, for most people, unless you're a bestseller, not that lucrative to be putting a book out there. It's really more of a soul project, a passion project. Now, self-publishing, that's very different. So with traditional publishing, maybe you'll make $1 per book. But with self-publishing, you're often getting about half of that list price. So if the book is listed as $18, you might be making $9 per book, which is a really great way to support yourself and to support your business. Question number 3 is, are you willing to let go of some creative control? If the answer is yes, then you might consider traditional publishing. So in traditional publishing, you send your book in and then it's a collaborative process from then on out. So you might have to relinquish some things like the title of your book, the cover of your book, and sometimes even the flow or format of your book. So in traditional publishing, the publisher has final say and control over all of those details. So if you're someone who knows you want to have control over that process, then self-publishing will often be the best route to go. Question number 4, are you willing to put a lot of work and time into querying, developing a publishing packet, and searching for an agent and a publisher? So I like to say to people now that you will spend as much time on that stuff as you will writing the book. Now that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but it honestly took me a whole year to write and perfect my proposal before I started querying publishing companies. So if you are willing to put that amount of time into getting someone to publish the book, then traditional publishing might be a great route. The silver lining with doing this kind of work is that you get to learn a lot more about the book. You get to learn how to position it, the language that you want to use, and working through this process of querying publishers and agents and creating a publishing packet really helped me actually understand what the book was about and how to express that. Number 5, are you willing to be on a longer timeline? So with self-publishing, you could decide to publish your book and have it out there in the world next month. With traditional publishing, you have a lot less control, and it's very typical for the process to take a year or sometimes even longer. I know for my book, the process from start to finish will be about a year and a half. So if you are willing to be on a longer timeline and that works for you and when you wanted the book to come out, then traditional publishing is something you might look into. And lastly, what are your goals? If your goal is to get your work out there, to bring your vision to life so that you're free to keep moving on with your life and perhaps go on to other projects, or to have something tangible to give your audience and those you serve, to have something that can be available at the classes you teach or the retreats that you lead, then self-publishing might be the easiest way to go because you're going to get your book out there in the world. You can have it in your hands in a short period of time. It will make it easier for your audience to work with you and to drop into your work. And the thing about self-publishing is it's not the end of the road. If you decide later on that you want to go the traditional publishing route after you self-publish, you can also do that. On the other hand, if your goals are to reach a wider audience than you're currently reaching, to have your book be able to possibly go into places that maybe your organic reach wouldn't be able to touch, if you're interested in the publishing process itself, and if you are truly curious and open to collaborating, then traditional publishing might be the right route for you. So with a traditional publisher, some of the pros is that they will get your book in places that you can't. That as a self-publisher, it can be hard to get your book into certain stores. But with traditional publishing, they have those connections, they have those contacts. So it's possible to reach a bit of a wider audience, and you will be actively collaborating with people in order to have this book come into being. And that might be a pro for you or that might be a con. But if you're interested in the process itself of working with a traditional publisher, then it can be a really enriching experience. So if after these questions you've decided that self-publishing is the right route for you to go in, then there are a million different videos online and tutorials to help you get started. And once you dive into it, you can have your book on your shelf in just any time as short of a month if you'd like. Now, if you decide to go with traditional publishing, there's several different ways to go about it. So most people will try to find an agent first. So why do folks try and find an agent? Well, if you're writing a fiction book, it's often really hard to get any publishing company to look at your book if you don't have an agent. If you're writing a nonfiction book, that can be a little bit different. It's easier to query those publishing companies directly, to submit proposals directly. So how do you go about finding an agent? The best way is to pick books off your shelf that you admire and that you feel like your book is similar to, and look at the acknowledgments in the back of the book. Often, authors will acknowledge their agents, so you can find people's names that way. And I think that that is one of the best ways to sort of zero in on an agent that might be a good fit for you, because agents specialize in different kinds of books, different areas of expertise, and you want to find an agent that is the right fit for you. Now, it can also be really hard to find an agent. I spent over a year trying to find an agent. I got pretty far with a couple different people in the process of talking, either through looking at acknowledgments or asking for referrals from friends who are published. But none of it ever clicked. And I finally just decided that since none of these agents understood my book, since none of them seemed really excited about what I was doing, that I was actually just going to keep going and decide to just query the publishing companies directly, to send my publishing packet directly to them. And it ended up working for me. Partially because I wrote a nonfiction book and because I had a strong platform to stand on with my current audience. I could show them that, yes, I have the ability to sell this book. Yes, I am considered an expert in this field. So I ended up coming up with my publishing packet, and I queried a handful of different publishing companies directly. So the easiest way to do this is to look at the books on your shelf and notice what publishing companies keep coming up. Now, it's going to be really hard if you are, a solo entrepreneur or, just someone living your life like me, to be able to contact a publishing house like Penguin, for example, or Random House and get them to publish your book. You pretty much have to have an agent or be super famous in order for that to be a reality. But there's so many other small to medium-sized publishers who are willing to accept direct proposals, direct submissions, and they will often say that on their website. So look at your shelf and look at the publishing companies that show up in the books that are similar to the kind of book that you're writing, and you can try submitting your publishing packet, your proposal to them directly. Now, it can take a while to hear back from a publishing company, so this in of itself can be quite a lengthy process. But it is one of the most exciting feelings on earth to have someone at that publishing house read your query, to get back to you and say, yes, we are interested in you and we're interested in this book. And that's really the most important thing if you decide to go with traditional publishing. You want someone who's excited about the book, who gets the book, who's not asking you to change what you're writing or to do something differently. And so if you are writing a nonfiction book, you can actually go ahead and contact these companies with a proposal before you even write the book. And sometimes if you do that, they might have ideas and help steer you in a certain direction. For fiction, however, it's normally recommended that you have the whole book written because they want to be able to see and read the whole arc of your storyline. So I clearly decided to go the traditional publishing route, mostly because I was curious about the experience. And I was so lucky that my top publisher, North Atlantic Books, was interested. And I went about it totally on my own. So I didn't have an agent. I submitted directly to them. And I would suggest for anyone who is wanting to go this route to definitely get this book. Thinking Like Your Editor by Susan Rabiner was my go-to reference book throughout this whole process. It helped me so much, not only in the creation of my nonfiction book, but also in the process of creating this proposal, to send a proposal that was compelling enough and clear enough and that understood what a publisher was looking for. So of course, if you're going the traditional route, once you sign that contract, that's really just the beginning. From then, you work on things like the title, the subtitle, the book cover, working with the marketing department. So it's really a journey that, like I said, could go on for a year or sometimes even longer. But it's a cool collaborative process that in the journey of it, you will even get to know on a deeper level your book and its expression in this world. So the third question that came in from all of you that I'm really excited to answer is, how do you keep going when you feel blocked? Writer's block or creative block is so real, and it's so tough when it comes up, especially when you've been on a roll and then all of a sudden it feels like you hit an impasse. And the thing is, there's no magic formula. You make the path by walking it. You make the path by continuing to show up. So even when you feel blocked, still showing up for that 1 hour a day that you decided to write, even if that means you're just going to sit there and stare out the window, to show up and be in relationship, to do something that is engaging with that book. So it could be going for a walk, it could be creating an altar, it could be creating a separate piece of art based on that book to try and diversify your creative relationship with that book. The block is just you working with your own internal blocks, and it's not an impediment to the process, it is the process. Your book is helping to create you. It's helping you on your journey of becoming. So stay with it when you feel blocked. Know that it's not a sign of your failure or your shortcomings. It's a natural part of the process that every single writer on the planet deals with. But the difference between the writer who gets their book published and the writer who lets that book go is the writer who finally puts that book out into the world continued to show up. They continued to say yes to the journey. And finally, on a super practical note, if you get stuck, try reading out loud. When I would get stuck in a paragraph and I'd be looping or I wouldn't know where to go next, I would take a step back and I would just read aloud what I'd done so far. Often just shaking it up in that way will help shake up your thinking, clear and clarify your thoughts, and give you that next step. So I hope these answers to your questions have been helpful. I'm so excited to be here and be supporting you in the creation of your book. This world needs your book. They need your creations. And stay tuned because the announcement about the release of my book is coming in just a few months. I'm so excited to share this with you. If you decide to pre-order the book, you'll also get access to a behind-the-scenes video where I go even deeper into my process of writing the book, what went into it, and the description of this process in a way that really can help you in your process of writing a book. There's also going to be a free class that comes along with this package called Writing the Earth's Voice, which is all about helping you open to and really hone your unique connection with the earth and to let the voice of the earth, the messages that this planet and the living beings here are delivering to you, flow through you in your writing and all of your creative pursuits. So now I would love to hear from you. Is there a book that's pressing on your chest? Is there a creation that you just know is meant to move through you into the world? And if you're already an author, I'm so curious, what was this process like for you? Did you decide to go self-publishing or a more traditional route? And if so, why? I truly believe in your book. I believe in the creation that you are here to deliver to this planet. And I know that this video and my book, Mirrors in the Earth, is just here to reflect that back to you and help support you in this beautiful process of becoming the earth healer, the intuitive, and the artist that you are.